Hey everybody, Greg here for another episode of the Aviation Growth Podcast. Today, joining me, I have Rob Polston, the CEO of Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology. Rob, how's it going?
Going well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I like your backdrop back there.
Thanks. It's downtown Chicago, where our corporate headquarters is. So, yeah, it's a great view of the river behind me. So, but it's cold.
Very nice.
Cold day over here. We need some more sunshine.
Well, cool. So today, I know we wanted to talk about a few things. I think really focusing on workforce development, human capital. I know you guys are heavily invested in that space. But maybe we could start with just a quick intro to maybe who you are, what's a little bit about your personal background, and then a little bit about what you do at Spartan and what Spartan's all about.
Yeah, great. So I've been in education almost 20 years now, investing in education companies and running education companies, both in the U.S. and in Europe. And at Spartan, we do one thing, but we do one thing really well, which is we have a small aviation portfolio of programs. So we teach mechanics for A&P licensure. We teach electronics for aircraft, and then we also teach non-destructive testing and quality control. That's on our tech side. And then we have a program that allows people to start ab initio flight training and eventually become commercial pilots. So we're really focused on aviation, owning aviation. That's all the education we do, and we've been doing that for 93 years. I've been with the company now. This is my fourth year as CEO, and I'm just really excited about what we do here. I think there's no place in higher education that's actually serving a need that's more in demand and will be in the future than what we're doing here at Spartan. And I'm really excited about our industry and what we can provide future prospects and career paths that they can go on into aviation.
Very cool. And where are your campuses? Where are you guys based out of?
Yeah, so we started out, like I said, 93 years ago as an airplane manufacturer in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then eventually became the legacy into training mechanics and pilots. We then expanded into Denver a few years back, and then also into Los Angeles. We have two campuses, one near the Los Angeles airport, and then one in Riverside, California, what's known as the Inland Empire. So 4 campuses today, and covering most of the western United States in terms of our geography.
Sure. Very cool. And so, I think the big thing that we wanted to talk today about is our workforce. And I've had plenty of conversations about it. On this podcast, we've talked about it quite a bit. And it seems like one of the biggest obstacles facing this industry is our workforce. And so maybe you could give me, from your perspective, a little bit of a rundown on what's the current state of the workforce in aviation?
Yeah, so when I first came on as CEO 4 years ago now, I was looking at the projections in the Bureau of Labor Statistics and reading Boeing reports, and it became very obvious that there was going to be a huge supply-demand imbalance in terms of skilled labor for the aviation industry. And the pandemic actually sort of slowed that down a bit, but then ironically accelerated it because people were furloughed. They decided not to be in the aviation industry anymore, given the layoffs that happened. So what the pandemic did was actually create an even greater supply-demand imbalance. So right now what we're seeing and what we're hearing from our partners is we need more mechanics. We need more pilots. We can't find them fast enough, and we're not even at pre-2019 levels, pre-pandemic, for revenue passenger miles. So, this is something that was coming, and really the big overarching issue is that there's a lot of mechanics and a lot of pilots that are going to be retiring, and mandatory retirement for pilots at age 65. So today, the country as a whole is producing about 5,000 new pilots a year. We're going to need 20 to 30,000 pilots in the not too distant future. So everyone is going to be competing for a very limited supply of qualified technicians and qualified pilots. And there's going to be, not the traditional way of being able to approach filling those jobs, which is everybody looking for graduates from schools. There's not going to be enough to go around. So
Right.
what I really see in terms of workforce development, and that's exactly how I would describe our company, this is an essential industry. You can't imagine where you wouldn't be able to have someone drop something off from Amazon or FedEx or UPS, much less be able to fly for leisure or for business. This is an essential industry to our country and globally. And so what we really see as the opportunity is for us to partner with airlines, with aerospace companies, with other aviation companies, and to provide training to high school students who generally aviation is not in their consideration set. So there's an opportunity for us to educate, but also for us to match high school students and job changers who really don't see aviation yet as a growth industry, which it is. And so if you look across the landscape of jobs that are growing and in high demand, aviation is one of the top, as a lot of skilled trades. Aviation is one of the top areas of, I think, global concern, and especially in the U.S., to have a well-educated workforce that can continue this essential industry in the United States on its current path.
Yeah, sure. So if you were to look like, let's say, 5, 10, 20 years from now, if there isn't a correction that's made in regards to the number of people entering the industry, what type of long-term impact do you see there?
So it's been pretty well, kind of published out there, but just taking Boeing as sort of the marker here and their annual projection.
Yep.
There's a need for 600,000 pilots and 600,000 mechanics globally over the next 20 years. And over the next 10 years, starting in a couple of years, is when the United States will really start to feel the impact of mandatory retirements for pilots. And so it's really right on the horizon here. And again, like I said, we have partners coming to us now, employers who have been taking, having our graduates go and work for them. They can't find enough supply. The issue is it takes 3 years to become a pilot, to start from ab initio training, to go through your CFI instruction, your certified flight instructor, and to be able to sit as a first officer. That takes at least 3 years in our program. And similar on the side for a mechanic or a technician, takes at least 2 years to be ready. So these aren't careers that you can force quickly. They take time. They take apprenticeship. As you know, they're really, it's all about technology and safety, and that can't be learned overnight or in an accelerated way. That has to be done in a measured way. So, our program is designed to really be, to not have to require people to do college level programs that really don't pertain to their career, but really to train them specifically for the aviation industry. So it allows them to do this more quickly, but it still takes time. So my outlook is this is going to be a major problem for any airline, for any aviation company, for aerospace companies to find talent that's well educated and trained. There's going to be a dearth of supply out there for this.
Sure. And so just to clarify on the AMT side, on the technical side of things, people entering into this industry and looking for a career in that space, there's a few different options about how you can go about getting like your A&P, or a few of the other programs that you had mentioned. And you can do that in a traditional university. There are programs at certain schools for aviation, but they may they may have your standard course load that every student is going through that, students may deem they're unnecessary or they're not interested in that. And so if I'm getting this right, you're really truncating the program. It's highly specialized and accelerated so that they can run through that kind of as fast as possible, knowing that, this is not something that you can rush. Obviously, this is, there's a lot to learn and you need that hands-on experience. But am I getting that right?
Yeah, you're definitely getting it right. We offer programs at a diploma level, at a associate's degree level, and then for people who want to go on to management, we offer a bachelor level. So we offer different length of program.
Okay.
And but really, what we're training for on the A&P side specifically is to get to licensure, to have your A&P license, to be recognized as an A&P licensed mechanic. That's really what we're training for. So it's to your point, we're not I would say slowing people down by needing to go to programs that have a lot of content or a lot of courses that aren't relevant really to being a licensed A&P mechanic. But it allows them to get the skills they need and to go off and work in industry. So from that point of view, it's really, I would just say, focused, and allows you to get the skills that you need to get to the workforce, which is what, again, coming back to workforce development, a lot of people in this country think you need to have a 4-year degree to go onto a great career.
Right.
I challenge them to look right at aviation, and if they have an interest, call Spartan. These are great careers. They're growth industries. They're technology focused, and it doesn't take 4 years to become what you want to be and get into the market in an industry where there's a lot of demand, and it's an exciting career path. Working in aviation, as you know, working on airplanes, working in high technology, working in related fields in aerospace and aviation. There's a lot of opportunities for people who are technologically focused or who want to become a pilot.
Yeah, for sure. And then so for becoming a pilot, for a lot of the pilots that I'm friends with and know, they've gone through like your standard flight schools in the past. And how would you say you guys differ from your standard flight school out there?
Yeah, there's different flavors of flight schools. There's universities which are well respected and well regarded, that take a little bit longer to get through their programs, and have great programs, but are a little bit more limited. And then there's a lot of mom and pop flight schools out there where you don't have access to financing opportunities or options. You don't get a degree. It takes a long time, and that's generally the industry is very atomized from a flight school perspective. I think what we offer and what really attracted me to Spartan is that we have that perfect mix. We just bought 32 new aircraft, Piper Archers and Seminoles. We have brand new technology with those training planes. And we do this in 17 months. If you complete the program on time, it's 17 months to then go on and become a certified flight instructor, which will then require another 1,000 hours of instruction. So, we're a lot different than a traditional university because, like you said, we're sort of getting rid of all the, we're being really focused in terms of what you need to know to get to industry, but you're also getting your associate's degree at the same time, and could go on for your bachelor's degree online. So we think we offer a really flexible solution that is not traditional, but it also isn't a mom and pop where it could take a lot of time and maybe never get to the end goal, which is 3 to 3.5 years you're sitting as a first officer
Sure.
over at a regional airline.
Sure. Yeah, I know a lot of people that have tried to do the kind of part-time flight school at a local place, and it takes a long time. And there's been a lot of people that I know that have given up on it just because of the expense, the time, just trying to juggle everything. And so I guess I guess it all really depends on you personally, what works for you, your schedule,
Yeah.
the financial aspect of it and everything like that. So,
Well, we bring people through the program. We've been in higher education for a long time. We are recognized and offer degrees and diplomas that are recognized by national accreditors and as well by the Department of Education. So, we're trained. We not only have academics and have teachers who have been in industry, but we also have career services who help you get placed. We have people on campus who work in student services while you're in school. So this is the full complement of services that you need to really get through the program from when you're first getting out of high school, or maybe you're job changing. College is college. It's still an experience. And so a lot of the mom and pop flight schools out there, and I think there's some really good ones too. Don't get me wrong, but they don't have those types of services built around helping a student not only get through their program, but also all the emotional growth that goes around those years in school. So we provide all of that, and I think that's how we're different at Spartan than the local option.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you kind of touched on one of my next questions was around, first, like, mentorship as you're going through your program, being in touch with professionals that are already out in the industry, already working, and then, the process of getting placed. Can you talk a little bit about Spartan and how you're helping people along their journey and then, ultimately landing their first job in the industry?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we talk about while you're in school, sometimes that's where a lot of schools end. Come to school, get your education, and then maybe we'll follow up with you. But, we know at the end of the day that what matters is, not only your experience here, but what are you going to do with your career, and are you going to make it work for you for what you came to train for? So we have a really robust career services function. We're nationwide. We have national recruiters. We also have local recruiters, and we're pretty well known in the industry because we've been around so long. And people know that they're going to get quality graduates from our program. So we're pretty highly sought after for our graduates. But recently, we've taken a step further, which I think is really critical. And it sort of comes from my days when I was in Europe, where there was a much tighter linkage between employers and students at the very front end. So recently, we just announced a partnership with SkyWest. And this is an example of how we're really trying to be much more connected to industry and connecting students to industry. So SkyWest and Spartan announced a cadet program, pathway program, which they have with a couple of other schools, which really helps identify students who are just entering into the program, either as a pilot. We also have a newly launched mechanic or tech program. So what we want to do is help SkyWest, who needs hundreds of pilots and mechanics in the future. We want to connect them with our brightest prospects early on, before they even start school at Spartan, and allow them to have what you just called, the mentorship. So not only do they come in and be part of that program, but they have access to SkyWest, they have access to interviews. They feel like they're truly part of a pathway to the job that they ultimately want to have. And I think what we've seen in the short life of this program since last summer is that it really gives confidence to parents and to students about where their career or what they're going to do right after graduation. So it
Right.
starts to eliminate some of the unknowns, even though we know this industry needs a lot of people. It gives them that pathway, that line of sight from the day they start the program, that they have a position or they have the opportunity
Right.
to go to SkyWest if they fulfill their program and these benefits. So, you're going to see a lot more of that from Spartan. I think this will be an industry trend. Is really to look at us as not only educators, but also really connected with industry, so that students know really early on where they can go, where their options are, and employers are going to benefit.
Yeah.
And rather than looking for graduates and competing in a marketplace where salaries are going to continue to rise because of supply and demand, but they can really differentiate themselves, customize programs, and be connected with students much earlier than at graduation time, and fulfill their human capital needs,
Right.
because that's what it's going to take for them to build loyalty and to fill these positions. So, we do the traditional career services, I think, better than a lot better than most, but we're taking it a step further by having these industry partnerships that are really deep seated.
Right. No, I love that. And talking with a lot of younger people and a lot of parents, and they're trying to figure out, we're trying to push, nudge their kids in the right direction. And right now, I think it seems like more than ever, having a very clear path on where you can go, it seems like it's a great investment, right? So you can go for kids that are coming out of high school and maybe unsure about a career path, and they're going to school for, and I'm not knocking this, but just giving kind of, what I'm seeing out there is, they go to school for something like general, like communications, or maybe business, or something along those lines. And they come out, they graduate, and they really don't have a clear path on where they're going. They don't necessarily know an idea for a salary range they're going to be in. And it's really tough for those kids to get placed somewhere that they want. And so with this, it seems like very clear expectations of what you're going for. When you come out, that there's going to be demand, and you have an idea in general of how much money you should be making. And so, one of my questions, and I don't know if you have, good intel on this, is around, I think salaries are now rising in this field, thankfully. But do you have like rough numbers on averages for, students entering the workplace, what type of annual take home they would be looking at? I'm sure the answer is it depends, but
it really does depend. I'm always hesitant to quote industry
Sure.
norms, because they're not norms. And we're always quoting the low end of the range, because
Sure.
we certainly don't want to give impressions that people
Right.
are always earning. So I always encourage people to look at BLS statistics. I can tell you that salaries are rising dramatically. But, I wanted to hit on something that you just said that I think is really the crux of the problem, or one of the things we're trying to solve. The aviation industry has such appeal in terms of technology and technology change, and the impact that it has on our economy and on people's lives. But they haven't done a really great job of communicating that to a pipeline of candidates.
Right.
And part of that reason is the industry over the years has been so capital intensive and has had so many shocks when it comes to the financial meltdown in 2009, or when it comes to SARS, or when it came to the first Iraq war. There's been these external shocks to the industry that have pushed it back. Mm-hmm. Now all of that is culminating in a workforce that is retiring at an alarming rate. but the talent hasn't been recruited because these airlines have had to deal with such capital-intensive needs that they haven't been able to really invest in the next generation of pilots and mechanics, and the technology is changing. So, the issue is that aviation really hasn't become mainstream for a lot of kids today. For a lot of people coming out of high school, I do a lot of talks with high school graduates. They're not even thinking about aviation unless they've been exposed to it, which is a pretty small part of part of the country. So our job is really to get out. One of the biggest issues is things like you're doing today is raising category awareness of the industry. People know what nursing is. They've seen it on TV. They know what criminal justice is. They've seen that on TV. They've heard about it. They don't know about aviation. So our biggest opportunity is to really tell the story not only about Spartan, but also about this incredible industry where people really can earn, I think, in a significant amount of money during their career, a tremendous payback on their education investment, but also be part of an industry that's growing globally. So if you even thought, as a student in the U.S. and, they're looking for people all over the world to be able to fly planes and fix planes. Major airlines are looking for it, and it's all English-based. So being in the U.S. and being trained in the U.S. is another special advantage. So my point is there's lots of opportunities. People, I think they just don't know about it. And, the other piece of that is women in aviation. This industry is dominated by men. And if we can bring more women into aviation, become pilots, become mechanics, that will do a world of good because the predominance is men. So we need to get women involved in aviation, and we need to get them involved in a big way to help solve this problem. And there's plenty of jobs out there for all types. So, like you said, coming back to your initial comment, which is, like if you're a high schooler thinking about a future career path, or mom and dad is thinking about a future career path, we've got all sorts of opportunities to be involved in a high-tech industry where there's lots of opportunities for either moving or creating a new life. And it's a pretty rewarding career in a career that really rewards people who are demanding. So I think it's really about creating that awareness for students coming out of school. They just don't know about it, and for job changers who are looking, maybe they're being displaced by automation. This is an industry where there's a lot of opportunity.
Sure. Yeah, I think the other thing too that again, it all depends. Not every role you could count on this, but people are looking for that work-life balance, and in some cases, aviation could bring some pretty interesting opportunities when it comes to schedule, like you said, location, relocation, travel, exposure to, all types of people and all different types of places. And so I think that's something that's not really promoted all that much, but is, people have some very, very interesting lifestyles being part of this industry.
You know as well as I, there's a lot of jobs out there where you travel a lot for your job.
Sure.
So, being the captain of a plane or a first officer, or having the ability to potentially, work abroad someday because of those English-based skills. There's a lot of mobility that offers, but we're traveling a lot. We're on planes a lot. So why not be the person who's manning that trip as a career? And I think the lifestyle is, depending on where you are in your career, allows you to, in some cases, I think, have a better work-life balance and feel more fulfilled. It really depends on the person. But I never thought about this as a career path when I was growing up. I really wasn't exposed to it. That's what's so exciting about this. I really look across the jobs that are being created skilled trade, workforce development, things you're talking about, careers
Sure.
that really were not heavily promoted over the last 10 years in higher ed. And now we have problems finding
Yeah.
skilled tradespeople, people being plumbers and being truck drivers and being in aviation. These are all careers that our economy depends on. And they've sort of now just been starting to get attention again because there's not enough people to do the work.
Right. Yeah. So I think one of the other questions that I had for you is just around, I'm sure COVID has changed a lot of things for a lot of different people out there. And I know that one of kind of the limitations around education in aviation is around, that hands-on experience, that classroom time. But how has Spartan looked at technology when it comes to like being remote? Understanding you're never going to be remote 100% of the time for this type of work, but how have things changed in the classroom for you guys?
Yeah, so great question, and I think it gets to the what's the future of education in this field. And I used to have a lot of students that were fully online, not at Spartan, but in other programs in
Right.
business. And this is a career field where hands-on is important. I mean, you're working on planes, you're flying planes. There's no replacing the lab portions, which are an integral part of what we teach. But there's more flexibility around the classroom. During COVID, I should mention, we were one of the first, we were the first college to have an FAA-approved hybrid program for our AMT. And that meant that you could be online for 13 months and then go to our campus in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and finish out your labs in 7 months. And that was pretty innovative, and it still is pretty
awesome.
innovative even today. But during COVID, we started to, really use we were forced to into Zoom and doing more things online, more didactic teaching online, and doing our labs, in sync with that classroom, but at a slower pace because of public health measures. Now we're fully back, thankfully, in early 2021. But it brings up really a really important evolution. And I think more and more, as you say, will be more hybrid in focus and orientation. People will want to learn online their didactic teaching. They'll want the flexibility of being able to be in a classroom or being able to be on their technology. And then I think the lab portions eventually will become more computer-based as well. But I think for the intermediate term, it will be a mix of hybrid learning, which we do today, being able to be online for some didactic portions, and then still a good portion of lab work. So, but I do think the future is more and more around VR and around being able to do things in a virtual world. At least parts of that lab will become more virtual as the technology and as the programs. Even the airlines, when they're doing their training, are using much more simulation technology, and we will adopt more and more as the years go on and we adapt. But I think for now it'll be a little bit more traditional in that approach, but more going online.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I actually had two guys that came on one of my earlier episodes of the podcast, and they're building, or they've built a VR platform, VR, AR for aviation education, and they've done it in other industries, and now they're building, now where you could walk into a virtual hangar, go into a virtual aircraft, actually go through troubleshooting. And they came to the studio. I got to wear the headset, walk around the avionics compartment in a 737. It was pretty cool to see kind of where this technology is going. And I don't think it replaces the hands-on experience that you get, but when it comes to that, just repetitiveness and getting familiar where everything is and the steps in the process, I think it really does have a place.
Absolutely.
But I also know,
in that.
Yeah, and in talking with those guys, I know that there are some changes, I believe, that are coming down the pipe for a revamp of the 147 requirements. How do you see that, and how does that impact your the courses and everything that you offer?
Yeah, I welcome that, actually. I think it's in line with how we were one of the first innovators, like I said, for the AMT hybrid program. And we have a number of students. We have quite a number of students in the hybrid program because it allows them to continue working and then take a break from school for 7 months. But I think what the Part 147 is going to do is going to feed right into that model, which is more flexibility, more online. But what you're also going to see is more competency based, which means measuring the skills that you have and allowing you to go through that program in a way that fills the gaps that you don't have, but allows you not to spend time on the things you do have. So I think competency based, as a result of the Part 147, it's going to open up. I think it was actually a really smart thing and an about time sort of thing, which is let's get out of this archaic model into something that opens the market up for people to learn. And I think because of that, it will draw more people into the program and help solve some of this supply and demand issue.
Sure. Very cool. One of my last questions for you is, I think there's a lot of people talking about this problem that we have regarding workforce development. What would you say is kind of the best way for, whether you're an individual, a business, an airline, whatever it may be, what's the best way for people that are in this industry to get involved, to try and bring more people into it and grow the talent pool?
Well, I think you're already starting to see it. There's some interesting announcements from companies like United, who just started their own flight school down in Arizona, and also partnerships. You have American, who had their cadet academy, and SkyWest, who we just partnered with this past summer. I think partnering with education institutions for employers is a great way for the end market to get visibility into early into students who are just making their decision, and then helping to educate them. We do webinars and podcasts where we try to have employers talk about what it's like to be at SkyWest and what the career path looks like. So I think more innovative communication from ultimate employers are going to get people interested in the career in the careers, and we're connecting down in the high schools and for job changers. So to me, that's really the challenge here for all of us, is to communicate that kind of career path and what you're going to be doing, and educate a population that's kind of generally doesn't really understand these types of careers, or they feel like it's not. I hear a lot that it's not. I can't get there because I don't think I have the technical skills, or I would never qualify to be a pilot or mechanic. The reality is it's a reachable career with the right training. So more of that, more innovation. I think the employers really need to take what has been a very insulated industry from a recruiting standpoint to one that's more broad-based and media-driven. And I think you'll get a lot more attention and a lot more awareness, and people will come into the industry once they know what it's about.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about what you guys are doing to bring people in. It's really cool. I'm happy to see the type of programs that you have. I guess, if listeners are interested in either learning more about your programs or maybe partnering with you or seeing, how they could get involved, whether it's mentoring students or trying to get students lined up with a career path, where can they get more info? How could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best place is www.spartan.edu. Has all of our programs and contact information for admissions and for speaking to someone at the school. So that's the best place to start to learn about us. And for any partners that would like to talk with Spartan about creating a program for them, we'd be more than happy to talk to them as well.
Awesome. And we'll share a link right to your website from wherever this is. So, well, Rob, I appreciate you coming on. It's been great talking with you, and look forward to connecting in the future.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yep. Of course. Thank you.
Take care.